AppGate's Application Discovery is an intelligence-powered service that automates the identification of application access patterns, revealing who is accessing what, and it generates precise entitlement recommendations. No more manual log reviews or time-consuming audits. And most importantly, this service can improve your organization's security posture with no impact to end-user productivity or behavior. Let's start with one of the most common customer scenarios, VPN replacement. In this scenario, a customer has several remote users. They may be full-time remote or in a hybrid work arrangement, or contractors needing specific business applications that reside in the customer's data center, cloud, or colo facility. In a typical VPN setup, remote users are required to authenticate before being granted broad network access. This model is simple to set up, and it assumes that end users will only know about or attempt to access specific applications, or that all exposed applications will enforce additional authentication and authorization checks, which is not always the case. A more secure approach would be to narrowly define security rules that limit what end users are entitled to access. However, the work required to determine which applications exist and who should access them often requires weeks of manual research and collaboration among multiple departments. For most organizations, this is an effort they can't prioritize. So once the VPN is set up and end users have access as if they were in the office, network and security teams apply their valuable skills to other needs. That is, until an attacker utilizes a compromised credential or device to scan and attack resources that a remote end user would not normally need access to. So let's consider a different approach, using AppGate and the Application Discovery service. We begin with a setup that looks very similar to a VPN configuration, starting with a gateway appliance and a broad entitlement that grants access to a subnet. Remote users authenticate and receive the broad entitlement, which grants them access to many applications, devices, and other resources. The Application Discovery service automatically analyzes all network access requests that came through the broad entitlement. It identifies the specific applications, host, port, and protocol, and which users access those applications. Next, it recommends entitlements that will define narrow access to specific applications. The SDP administrator may review and revise the entitlements further before accepting them. Once they are active, the remote users no longer need the broad entitlement, which can now be disabled or removed entirely. This immediately causes all other resources to be cloaked by AppGate's single packet authorization technology. End users still retain their access to the applications that they need without any impact to their productivity. Now let's look at Application Discovery inside the SDP admin interface. Inside my AppGate SDP environment, I defined two broad entitlements, one for each office. Here's the broad access for the London office, with pretty large subnets and all ports. Similarly, there's an entitlement for our cloud environment in Northern Virginia. We recently enabled Application Discovery, and it's been running for just a couple days. So let's take a look at what's been discovered. So just in the past few days, we've discovered 28 different applications. We're going to focus in on the top application. Within this small test group that we've run, we see that there were 6 users who accessed the support web internal application. And we could see when that activity was, and then there was a drop-off during the weekend, and recently this was a holiday weekend, so there's been an extended drop in activity since turning it on. Now we see that this is the application that the users are accessing, and we see the port and protocol that they've used to access. We can quickly review the users who have accessed this, and in environments with many groups, you would click on the groups list to see all the groups that those individuals are members of. This is in helping to identify which groups you might want to allow access to the application. In our simple environment, everybody is just part of the local user group. Finally, under additional data, we can see which entitlement was used to access this application. You can see it's the broad entitlement we looked at earlier. And we can see the IP address of this application. And in larger environments, you might have multiple IPs for this specific FQDN. So just quickly reviewing the users, I believe they all are supposed to have access, and I would like to set up a narrow entitlement just for this application. So I'll click Configure Application, and now we're going to define a new entitlement. So we'll do Support Web Access. We'll leave it in a disabled state. This will allow me to make any additional modifications and set conditions to it if I need it. I do know that our entitlements are assigned to users based off of policies that use tags. So here we're going to use the app disco sample user tag. This will allow the entitlement to automatically be added to a policy that is looking for this particular tag. If there was a specific policy I wanted to add it to manually, I can do that here, but that's not needed in my case. And now we can see that we've generated an entitlement, when we last generated that entitlement, and we can easily click on it to go in and further customize this. So remember, it's still in a disabled state, and this will give me the chance to come in and say maybe there are additional conditions. So for example, I want to add the condition that checks that CrowdStrike is on. And I'll now enable this and click Save. And that's how quick and easy it is to identify applications and assign that to groups and users in a policy so that there's narrow access. These users will no longer need the broad network access in order to get to that application. I can repeat this process for all the other applications that I see here, and over time, the number of users will go down as we get rid of the broad access rules and everyone is transitioned to a narrow entitlement. Visit our website to learn more about AppGate and the Application Discovery service.